The afternoon session of the 73rd Annual Convention of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky is now in order. And I guess to get things off on the proper foot, I need to introduce our door prize team, Lonnie, Ashley, and Emma Swafford. So come on, guys, dig deep, draw out a name or three.
M-A-M-I-E.
Thank you, Madam President.
Mason.
Our first recipient is going to be Martin Monsoon.
Crystal Brock.
We have Crystal Brock as the second recipient. And Manny Mason. Spell it.
M-A-M-I-E. M-M-A-S-O-N.
So those are the three recipients. The reminder is to send the door prize email to nfbkdoorprize@gmail.com. We'll start the 10 minutes now. This is for the three $25 Amazon e-gift cards.
Lonnie, what's the code word?
The code word, that is going to be vote. I apologize. The code word
No
is vote.
problem. Got to have a code word. All right, code word vote. Call in and claim your prize. Just a couple of real quick announcements before we get started. If you're having any technical problems, you can call Jane Seif, or if you have a question about the convention at 502-500-7675. And also, if you would like to contribute to the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, you can go to nfbfky.org and you can contribute via PayPal. And there is a drop box that will lead you to the fund that you can contribute to, whether it's our general fund, our Cameron Fund, which helps individuals go to our state and national conventions, or our Bell Academy. So let's introduce our presenters for our afternoon session. We are going to demo the Voting Works system that's going to be used here in Kentucky. And from Voting Works, we have Mr. Charles Mumford. And then to demonstrate how to navigate the ballot as a blind user, we have Carl Bellinger from our National Federation of the Blind office. So Carl, if you have any opening words, and then we can turn it over. Charlie, if you have any opening words about Voting Works, we'd love to hear about that. And then we will turn it over to Carl for the demonstration. So if you have questions as the presentation is going on, be sure to put them in the chat box, and Ben Henderson will read them aloud for us. So if you would take it away, I appreciate it. Okay, we do not see Charlie Mumford on our list here. He has not joined us. So Carl, can you kind of help us through this process?
Certainly. Welcome, everyone. Glad to be here to do the demo. So the Voting Works is an online ballot marking tool. So you will go through, make your selections on your ballot that you want, and then you will print your ballot and any remaining other documents that need to go with it and mail it to where it needs to go. So for this demo, I'm using Google Chrome with NVDA. It should work just as well with JAWS on an iPhone or iPad, on a Mac, whatever. It should work with just about anything. So if you'll give me just a second to set up the screen share, we'll get on with the demo.
Hi, everyone. While Carl's doing that, my name is Aaron Wilson, and I'm here on behalf of Voting Works to answer any questions about the system. Charlie couldn't make it this afternoon, but I'm one of the lead developers on the system, and we're happy to be providing it to the state of Kentucky and happy to answer any of your questions today. I look forward to the conversation.
Okay, and I will start the screen share now. You'll also be able to hear my screen reader.
Meeting controls window. My ballot login Google Chrome. My ballot login.
Okay, just confirm you can hear and see what I have going on.
Out of
Yes, we can see and hear.
Great. I will begin. So you'll land on a page, welcoming you, and first you'll want to hit the link.
Navigation landmark list with 2 items visited link download and track my ballot. My ballot login document.
Okay, and now you're on the login page. You'll log in with your information, and depending, I'm not sure which Kentucky does, but you'll either have a access pin or your voter ID that you'll be given. So I will do that now.
Access pin edit access date last first F. Speak typed characters on D E M O. Last name edit has autocomplete last V O T E R. Date of birth MM/DD/EII. Edit 1/1/1980.
And it is important to note when typing in the date of birth, you do need to type the slashes.
Access pin edit access 040665. Sign in button. Alert preparing your ballot portal. My ballot document blank. Main landmark high demo. Heading level 1. Welcome to the accessible vote by mail demo system.
Okay, and as you heard, it said high demo, so I'm logged in. And you'll have a couple pages here of welcome text and instructions. There's also some ability to change your font size and screen and things of that nature. So I'll just down arrow through this page a bit.
Main landmark heading level 2. Welcome to the accessible vote by mail demo system. We are glad you are here and hope that you find heading level 2 this to be a quick and easy process to access your ballot. Heading level 1. Your active elections mark and print your ballot. Heading level 2. Famous from Danielle Burton to heading level 2. Famous name primary 11/3/2020. Heading level 3. Instructions. To ensure your ballot is returned and counted, please possible before election day. To mark your ballots, use the begin ballot marking button below.
Okay, you can read through the rest of this page at your leisure. I'm going to go to the begin marking button.
Begin ballot marking recommended for screen reader users button.
And I just did that by hitting B on my keyboard for button. I'm going to select that.
Content info. Out of grouping out of toolbar main landmark heading level 1 official American ballot. Heading level 1 famous name primary. Heading level 1 November 03. These are the ballot marking list with 6 items. Heading level 2 getting started. After you finish reading these instructions, click the continue link to begin.
And I'm just down arrowing, and again, more instructions that you can peruse at your leisure. Just a standard page of text. I'll press tab.
Continue button.
And hit enter.
Main landmark. You are now on one of 2 total items. President of the United States. Heading level 2. Vote for 1. Heading level 2. President of the United States. Vote for 1. Checkbox not checked. George Washington.
And I'm just down arrowing. You can also tab through these, use your screen readers, checkbox commands, whatever.
From Nikki Pearl. Checkbox not checked. John Adams. Checkbox not checked. George Washington.
I'm going to select George Washington.
Checked.
And it says checked. If I attempt to select John Adams.
Checkbox not checked. John Adams. Alert, please deselect one in order to select another.
It does not let me overvote, and as you heard, it says please deselect one to select something else. I'll keep down arrowing.
Checkbox not checked. Write in text box. Link next.
And I will hit next. And I can use H to go to the
American Mayor heading level 2.
contest, American Mayor,
Vote for 1.
and again, vote for 1.
Checkbox not checked Roger Abbott. Checkbox not checked Elmo. Checkbox not checked write-in. Write-in text box set it unavailable. Link previous.
Now, I could select one of these, but I don't like either of these candidates, so I'm just going to hit next.
Link review.
And it says review because this is the last content in the contest in the ballot.
Dialog you have voted for less than you are allowed to vote. If this is what you wanted to do, click continue. Click back to modify your selections. Back.
Okay, so as you heard, it pops up a little warning here saying I've undervoted and asking me what I want to do.
Button back button continue.
For now, I'm going to continue.
Continue button. Main landmark heading level 2. Please review your selections and click on proceed to print your marked ballot when you are ready. Federal. Heading level 3. President of the United States. Vote for 1. Graphic selected. George Washington. Graphic unselected. John Adams. Graphic unselected. Write in.
And as you hear, it says, a graphic that says it's selected for the candidate you chose and unselected for the other two. I'll just keep down arrowing.
Blank. Link click to go back and change selections for. Link President of the United States.
And if you decided you didn't like the way you'd voted, you could hit that link and go back and change it.
City. Heading level 3. American Mayor. Vote for 1. Graphic unselected. Roger Rabbit. Graphic unselected. Elmo. Graphic unselected. Write in. Blank. Heading level for undervote warning. You have voted for less than you are allowed to vote. Link click to go back and change selections for. Link American Mayor.
So once again, I get the undervote warning that I can do. And in fact, I do want to go back and change my selection. So I'm going to select this link.
Main landmark you are now on 2 of 2. Heading level to American Mayor.
And but let's say I want to write someone in.
Roger Abbott. Elmo checkbox. Write in checkbox not checked.
And I was just moving by checkbox.
Write in text box set it blank.
And now when you're in the when you check the write-in box, it moves you right into the text box. So the name of this person is demo voter, so I'm going to put in demo voter for mayor.
DEMO space VOTER. Review link. Click here to proceed to ballot review.
And I'll hit review.
Main landmark. Federal. President of the American Mayor heading level.
I skipped over president because we'd already reviewed that one.
Vote for 1. Graphic unselected. Roger Rabbit. Graphic unselected. Elmo. Graphic selected. Write in. Demo voter.
And as you can hear now, it says that I've selected write-in and written in demo voter.
Blank. Link click to go back and change. Link button proceed to print your marked ballot.
So I'll hit this proceed button.
Alert the print dialog will launch automatically. Do not forget to also download and follow the instructions to ensure your ballot is counted. Print ballot button. Download instructions button. Ballot marking my ballot document. Loading preview. Print button. Button cancel.
So my computer's print dialog popped up. I don't want to print because
Ballot.
this is a demo. I don't need to do that. So in addition, if the print dialog doesn't pop up automatically,
Button print ballot.
you can hit the print ballot button again, which will pop it up, or if you accidentally get rid of it.
Button download instructions.
And you'll want to hit download instructions, which will download this page that I'm on, which shows instructions for returning your ballot, as well as any other signature pages or things that may be included with your ballot. And then once you've confirmed that you've downloaded things successfully and your ballot is printed.
Navigation landmark list with 2 items. Logout grouping logout link.
Log out.
My ballot login.
And a couple other notes, your ballot selections are not saved at all in the system. So as soon as I hit that log out button, everything I just did went away. So it's secure in that sense of nothing is stored, nothing is kept. And in fact, you can go in and change your selections and redo ballots as many times as you want. The only requirement is that you only submit one actual paper ballot to the state. So that concludes the demo of the Voting Works sample ballot system. Just give me a moment to stop the screen share and we can go to questions.
Meeting can mute. Odd stop video open more new pause more doc to bot stop space.
There we go.
I do believe we have some questions in the chat box, Mr. Henderson.
Yes. Kevin asks, am I correct that everyone who wants to use this system absolutely must contact their county board of elections? If so, I would encourage them to do it as soon as possible. This isn't something you can do the day of the election. So oh, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, could they hear what I just said? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my mic was in the wrong position. So I guess the question is just, must they contact their county board of elections?
This is Aaron. I'm not 100% sure on the procedure to request the ballot, but I believe that is true, and I echo the sentiment that it should be done as soon as possible to give yourself as much time as possible.
Yes, if you want to vote absentee, you must contact county clerk's office. Or you can go into the portal and request. It's my understanding. Are there any other questions?
That looks like, oh. Let's see here. Okay, Kevin went on to say you also have to contact them to get your access PIN or your login. Not sure if that meant to be a question or just a statement.
Aaron, is
Yeah,
there?
this is Aaron. So you will, as Carl demonstrated, you will authenticate yourself with your first name, last name, date of birth, and a PIN number that the either the state or your local clerk will be giving to you.
Carl, do you have any, excuse me, Aaron, do you have anything that you would like to tell us about the company, just in general?
Well, just in general, we're very excited to be providing this type of service. Obviously, this year presented some unfortunate circumstances to the nation and particularly to how we vote. But in some ways, it really opened up the opportunity for systems like this to become more available to voters who need this type of assistance. And so, we're happy to be able to provide it. A couple of just expectations around the system. Everything that Carl demonstrated, is very, very similar to what you will experience as a Kentucky voter. Some of the pages will say Kentucky instead of demo. But the other thing that I want to point out is that this is to receive the ballot. So you will go through, mark the ballot, print the ballot. You will receive in the mail from your clerk the envelope and other materials that you need to return your ballot with. So this ballot that you receive through the system will need to be married to the materials you receive via postal mail to return your ballot. And so that'll be something that your clerk will also be sending out to you in addition to giving you that access PIN.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions in the chat box, Mr. Henderson?
There are no more questions. However, I did have a request to say something that was mentioned this morning. To reiterate, you do need to contact your county clerk to notify them that you do want to use the accessible ballot. So just we did go over that. And while I was saying that statement, there was another question. Also, is it true that your ballot is then hand transcribed onto a regular ballot form?
That is correct. Yep, the ballots that come out of this system will be duplicated onto a scannable ballot when they're returned.
Are there any other questions? If not, then I'd like to thank Aaron and Carl for joining us here in Kentucky at our virtual convention and giving us vital information about accessible voting here in the state. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. You're welcome to hang around and join us for as much of our convention as you would like.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity and good luck with the rest of the convention. I will stick around for a bit.
Oh, good, good. Well, now we come to, excuse me, I'm already getting choked up. Here we are. It's my State of the NFB of Kentucky affiliate address. And it is our 73rd convention. And who in their right mind would have ever thought we would be doing a virtual convention? And I've got to tell you, doing a virtual convention is much more difficult than planning one in person. When we get back to a face-to-face convention, it's going to be a piece of cake. There are just so many minute details that you don't even think about. I mean, even how to draw for door prizes kind of became a matter of, well, should we or shouldn't we? Which way would be best? And just, I can't tell you how excited I am that I've had such a good crew. I've said it before and I have to say it again, that this is so far above my pay grade. And I have to take my hat off and a big thanks and hugs to Phil Seif and Ben Henderson and Todd Stevens for all of their expertise in this area. And for their wives, Jane and Laura and Angela, who have added all of the little details, all the little detail-oriented things that women think about, that, you know, men seem to have the big picture and women, we seem to be a little more detailed. You know, I've always said that, you know, I just never know how to prepare for one of these addresses. And you'd think after 21 addresses that I'd get the hang of it, but I haven't. I'm not a public speaker. And I just find this something very difficult to do. So I just have to kind of speak from my heart. I'm going to take some poetic license, and I'm not going to give the usual and customary report. Instead, I kind of like to focus on the past 20 and a half years and how being president of the Kentucky affiliate has meant to me. Oh, you know, I could go on all day about our accomplishments, such as getting Newsline on a firm footing. I could talk about hosting 4 successful Bell enrichment through learning and literacy and learning academies, how closely we've worked with the state legislator to keep the Kentucky School for the Blind open for students across the state in grades K through 12. We could speak about all the successes in maintaining our separate agency for the blind back in the early 2000s. Although we weren't quite as successful in 2018 when we were merged with the general agency. We can discuss filing our Parents' Rights Bill again this year for the 3rd time in a row, only to have the 2020 legislative session cut short because of the pandemic. We've been on the front lines fighting to have Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act struck so that blind and other disabled workers will no longer be paid less than the minimum wage solely based on their disability. Or, we could absolutely make sure that our blind students of all ages are receiving an equal education under the law. And this would include seeing that, blind students continue to receive their books and materials at the same time that their sighted peers are receiving theirs. And we can talk about Braille because it is so essential. It's such an essential tool for blind students. So it's because of the efforts of the National Federation of the Blind that, we continue to make Braille a priority. We have legislation on the federal level, our Aim High Act, which will assure blind college students full access to this ever-growing and changing digital world. And over the years, we've invested thousands of dollars into our scholarship program to help our blind students achieve their goal of a better education. And most recently, as you've heard this morning and early this afternoon, we've worked with the Kentucky Board of Elections to assure blind voters have a secret and independent absentee ballot. Think of how many Meet the Blind Month activities that we've sponsored over the years, and just how the positive the outcomes have been in our communities. We've built, quite a social media network here in Kentucky so that we can continue to spread the word of the NFB around Kentucky and across the nation. We began publishing our Kentucky Cardinal again in 2000. We've built a very successful and nationally recognized technology assistance division. Although our sports and rec is not officially a division, it continues to provide wholesome activity for blind people of all ages. We had plans this year to sponsor our first ever STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math. But again, COVID-19 rearing its ugly head put a damper on this project. We've organized new local chapters and divisions, and unfortunately, we've lost a few. And the third time is charm. Again, we're trying to launch our at-large chapter, which is so vital for those individuals who want to be a part of the National Federation of the Blind, but are not close enough to a local chapter. And I have no fear that we're going to continue to grow the National Federation of the Blind. Now, I believe I said at the beginning I wasn't going to do this, but I couldn't help myself. So I'll stop for now, because goodness knows there are probably lots of things that I left out. But you kind of get the idea that, we continue to work to make sure that we are living the lives that we want. Now, I've been a member of this organization since about 1975, and I'll be the first to admit that I was slow to join. I kind of took the crock-pot approach, and I didn't understand what the National Federation of the Blind was all about. I didn't think those old blind people could tell me anything about blindness that I didn't already know. The fact of the matter is they had lots to teach me. All I had to do was listen. Now I'm proud to say that I am one of those old people out here spreading the word and the philosophy of the National Federation of the Blind. I was finally coaxed into attending the spring luncheon of the Louisville Association of the Blind, or LAB as it was known back in the day. Now we're the National Federation of the Blind of Greater Louisville. And by the way, that spring luncheon continues to be a tradition here. Anyway, as I sat there listening to all the work that had been going on in both the federal and state legislative sessions, and in our local chapters and across the state, and in our national headquarters of the National Federation of the Blind, I suddenly had this epiphany. And I thought to myself, Kathy, this is exactly the organization that you need to be involved with. You've been advocating for the rights of the blind all your life. This bunch has it together. They know what they're doing. So I got involved, in a big way, in a big hurry. And, I no longer said they, but now I say we. And as we all know, the National Federation of the Blind is one organization working on different levels. And the local chapter is usually the first opportunity a person has to really get to know the Federation. And this is exactly where I found myself. One of the first issues that I remember working on was with the Yellow Cab Company. Service was deplorable, and blind passengers were being left because drivers weren't going to the door and announcing themselves, or passengers were being passed up because they had guide dogs. I can hardly keep a straight face because we're still dealing with this same issue today. The only difference is it's with our Transit Authority of River City, TARC, and our fixed route service, and our TARC 3 paratransit service. The old saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. If one is serious about his or her involvement, they're not going to stop at the local level. And I didn't. I was suddenly helping plan a state convention and chairing the resolutions committee. I was sent to Washington, D.C. To represent the Kentucky affiliate back in 1970, actually, I think I went 1980 was my first convention. And back in the 1970s, it was called the March on Washington. Now we refer to it as our Washington Seminar. And I've held many board positions in offices in both the local and state organization. I was, secretary and vice president and president in the greater local chapter. And I've been a board member, treasurer, and first vice president of the NFB of Kentucky. We need our board members and our officers, but we are all members first and foremost. Now, for those of you who don't know how I became president of this affiliate, I'll give you just a little bit of background. There were about 25 or 26 of us on a bus headed for Atlanta, Georgia to participate in the 1999 National Convention of the National Federation of the Blind. Betty Nicely, who was president of the affiliate at the time, asked me to stand for election as first vice president at the upcoming state convention. Now, she said she wasn't going anywhere anytime soon and that there would be a smooth transition. She explained that it was vital that she have her successor in place. I knew exactly what my duties as first vice president were. I just had no idea I was going to have to step up to the plate quite so soon. Betty suffered a major stroke about 4.5 months later. She experienced physical limitations as well as some issues with thought processing. Kind of had to step up and take over running of the affiliate overnight. And Kenny Jones was our treasurer at the time, and I can remember him kind of calling me and saying, Kathy, I need an authorization. We've got some bills that need to be paid. And it was also time to start making plans to attend Washington Seminar. Things got, just a little bit sticky. I tried as best I could, to keep Betty involved. And yet I knew ultimately that I had to carry out the work. And little did I know that people were calling her, asking her if they could go to Washington. And she was just telling everybody yes. My idea was that we would just take a few people, go get the job done and come home. But that wasn't what happened. I think we ended up taking about 15 people that year, but it all ended up working out in the long run. And I had a difficult balancing job. You know, as I said, tried to keep Betty involved and help her maintain her role as president and assure her that as soon as she was able, that I would certainly turn the job back over to her. My hopes were raised that this would actually happen when the doctors discovered that she had had a heart valve that could ultimately be repaired and that she should have a full recovery. That didn't happen. My hopes were dashed on Sunday morning, February 13th of 2000, when I got the call that Betty had suffered a major heart attack and had passed away. You know, my greatest fears had become reality. That entire day, I just kind of walked around my house like a zombie. And I know I talked to numerous people on the phone, but honestly, I don't remember anything. You know, all I knew was it was, you know, time for me to face the music and assume my position as the 6th president of the National Federation of the Blind. As I said, you know, I had a pretty good idea of what needed to be done, because I had served as, you know, board member and treasurer of the NFBK, and also my experience as president of NFB of Greater Louisville had kind of helped groom me for the position. And it didn't hurt either that Betty and I were good friends, and I saw her in action and had a pretty good idea of what needed to be done. But there were a few of those, oh no, what did I get myself into moments. For example, when I got a call from the National Scholarship Chairman explaining to me that I had to write a letter of recommendation for each Kentuckian who applied for a national scholarship. Now, I'd only been president, you know, for a matter of a couple of weeks, so I really had no clue what I was supposed to do, and needless to say, I had to do some real quick catching up. And then at the 2000 NFB National Convention, while I was sitting in the audience at the open board meeting, I was shocked to learn that Kentucky would be hosting the 2002, 2003, and 2005 national conventions in Louisville, Kentucky at the Galt House Hotel. To be told that we were going to host the 2002 convention really didn't come as much of a surprise, because I knew that the national organization had been wanting to come back to Louisville ever since the 1985 convention. But the overwhelming thought of 3 conventions in 4 years and 2 of them back to back was just what a new wet behind the ears president needed, right? And again, my experience of helping plan and host the 1985 convention was very valuable. But you know what? The Kentucky members pulled it all off in high fashion. And by the end of the 2005 convention, we felt like we were pros. I received another vote of confidence when I was elected to serve on the National Board of Directors of the National Federation of the Blind at the 2002 convention. And I hold the distinct honor of being the only person in the history of the National Federation of the Blind to be elected 3 consecutive times from the convention floor of his or her own state. I was elected to fill a 1-year vacancy in 2002, and I was elected again for a 2-year term in 2003 and 2005. I served on the National Board of Directors for 17 years and stepped down in 2019. And I can't begin to tell you what an amazing experience that was. And I learned so much about myself and the Federation and my commitment to the organization and my strong love for what we do. I'm not going to pretend that being president of NFB of Kentucky is all peaches and cream all the time. It certainly isn't. Although when you um, know that the good outweighs the bad, um, it's not hard to hold this position for as many years as I have. And it's really hard um, when you and your best friend clash with opinions on what needs to be done, but yet you know that you're the one that's going to have to make the final decision. Or when someone calls you and they've got this brilliant idea, and you have to be the one to tell them, oh, we can't do that. That's against the law. uh, Keeping up with all of the local chapter and division banking is an absolute nightmare. And it isn't so much the record keeping within the organization, it's the confounded changing policies at the banks. You know, for example, when all of a sudden, without notice, you realize that your account has been switched from a not-for-profit account to a business account, and it just about takes an act of Congress to get it corrected. And every time we go to change the signature on an account or open a new account, we learn that there are new policies in place. We try to call ahead and make sure that we know what documents and verifications that we need to take, but it doesn't usually work. It always seems like they forgot something. And I've yet to make a bank manager understand the structure of the National Federation of the Blind. I fully expect that in the very near future, they're going to ask for a couple of pints of blood just for good measure. And they like to blame everything on Homeland Security. Now, I've looked back at our membership list over the past 20 odd years, and I've wondered where some of the people have gone and why they are no longer in the Federation. And I can't help but blame myself for not keeping closer tabs on our members. You know, membership building is a tough thing, but keeping people involved and enthused is even harder. Being president also means that you sacrifice much of your personal time. There are early mornings and late nights sitting at the computer, you know, whether it's writing a letter, a report, or doing research. And I can't count the times I've had a deadline to meet and had to turn down, you know, going out to dinner with family or friends. And it's Thursday night, one of my favorite nights for television, and I'm on the telephone talking to a mother of a newborn who is blind, or a daughter whose mother is losing vision very rapidly, and she's looking for help and resources. And I can't forget the gentleman whose cry for help is so loud because he thinks his life is over because he's gone totally blind. The truth is, you know, I wouldn't trade even one of these computer sessions, missed dinners, or phone calls for one more dinner or night of missed TV, because this is where it is, folks, and this is where I was called to be. The good far outweighs the bad. And like I said, if it didn't, you couldn't stay in this position very long. You know, some of the greatest joys are the simple ones. For example, I feel such a sense of contentment and pleasure when I see a student beaming with pride after receiving an NFBK scholarship, or when someone attending his or her first convention comes up to me and thanks me for helping make that happen. Knowing that, you know, we have successfully hosted another state convention and how much we will all profit for the experience is so rewarding. And I can't possibly begin to put into words or put on paper the or verbalize how much being president of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky has meant to me, because it is such a deep rooted feeling that is just all tangled up in pride and emotion. And I can honestly tell you that it has been a learning and growing experience, both personally and in spirit. The Federation has taught me to be more disciplined and more responsible. But more importantly, it has taught me how to love and have compassion for people, and to accept them for who they are and where they might be at that moment in their life. You know, we all need to remember that, you know, by the grace of God and the National Federation of the Blind, we ourselves might be leading much different lives. But all good things must come to an end. Every season has its time. And in my mind, I know that the time has come, you know, to step down from the presidency, although it's going to take my heart a little bit longer to catch up to the idea. And it's time for me to pass the gavel to a new leader. 20 and a half years is long enough. And even though I won't be president, my intent is to stay involved, to mentor, to be a sounding board, and to even give advice when asked. Now, I'm throwing my support behind Jane Seif for president, and I hope that you will agree. Jane, you should be elected. I'm hoping, and I don't want to jinx anything, but I plan on there being a smooth transition. You're ready for this. I know I haven't taught you all that you need to know just yet, and that is by no means intentional. It's just very hard to remember everything that I've learned over the past 45 years. I've said it more than once, but it bears repeating. If I had to be president of any affiliate in this organization, I'm glad it was in Kentucky. I thank you for your love and support over the past 20 and a half years. And that concludes my report of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. Okay, now what?
Brought you Kleenex.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let me find my schedule. Goodness.
Waiting to some music.
Introduction.
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Can I take just one second to breathe? Thank you. Okay.
Now that we're all crying in the room.
Oh, okay. Well, business must go on, blubber on, if you will, but it's time to introduce our PAC chair of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, Miss Angela Henderson. Angela, you're on stage.
I'm here today to talk to you about our NFBK plan. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to sit here and sing to you, even though our NFBK song's pretty great. But no one really wants to hear me sing. However, if you want to belt it out wherever you are, feel free. Now, a few months ago, Kathy asked if I would be willing to be our PAC chair for our affiliate, and I very enthusiastically agreed. So some of you may be wondering, what's the PAC plan? Well, the PAC plan, or the Pre-Authorized Contribution Plan, is a way for us as members of the National Federation of the Blind and our supporters to help our cause by donating monetarily every month. So the process for doing this is very simple. You go online, give your contact information, and say what you would like to donate. So you can donate as little as $5 a month, or up to as much as you want to or are financially able. Currently, Kentucky has a monthly contribution of $597.50 with 21 contributors, with a year-to-date total of $3,783. As far as rankings for the affiliates go, we are placed at number 30, which is directly behind the state of Tennessee and directly in front of the state of Michigan. Not too bad. We could probably do better though. Now, if you're like me, fundraising may not be your forte. I've always had trouble with fundraising, getting people to agree to do it and things of that nature. It's never been that easy for me. However, that's what makes the PAC plan so great. It's simple. You don't have to do any work. All you have to do is go online to nfb.org/PAC. Again, that is nfb.org/PAC, and fill out the web form. It's very simple, completely accessible. All you have to do is provide your contact information, what affiliate you are representing, so Kentucky, of course, and the amount that you intend to contribute. So if you are a new contributor, someone from our national team will call you back and go through the process with you over the phone to get your account information, so you can either do this through your checking account or with a credit or debit card. Now, if you are already a contributor to PAC, thank you so much. If you would need to go online to update your contact information, you can do so using the web form, or you can also decide to increase your amount doing the same thing. I encourage you all, if you are not PAC members, to please join us. It's a very simple way to help raise money and support our cause. Because unfortunately, without money, we can't do the wonderful work that we do here in the National Federation of the Blind. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me for assistance at my email address. My email is angela@nfbofky.org. Or you could also contact someone from our national office. Any one of us would be glad to help you. I thank you all for letting me speak to you today, and I hope you continue to have a fantastic convention.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. And let me also put in my 2 cents. PAC is very important. It's how this organization operates. And you've heard all day long about all the programs that are offered through the National Federation of the Blind. So if you can see your way to spare at least $5, I encourage you to do so. I always like to encourage our members to start out with what they are comfortable with giving. Don't feel like you've got to get caught up in the moment and say, oh, I'm going to do $25, $30, $35, and then all of a sudden find out in a couple of months that's a little more than you could bite off and chew up. So start out and do what I do. Commit to raising your PAC plan every year or as often as you can. So thank you, Angela. That's a good report. I'm glad Kentucky is doing well and hope we can do better. Let's move on to our legislative report. And unfortunately, you're stuck with me again. Still have the Kleenex sitting here, but anyway. This past February, Jane Seif, Karen Main, Sarah Fleck, and I represented Kentucky at our Washington seminar. We presented 3 issues to the 116th Congress of the United States. Our Access Technology Affordability Act was H.R. 2086 and Senate Bill 815. Now, we all know that accessible technology is vital for blind people to keep us in step with our peers in school, on the job, and just being independent in everyday life. This accessible devices can cost anywhere from a few $100s to thousands of dollars, money which most of us do not have. And the fact is that Medicare, Medicaid, and our private insurance companies are not going to recognize accessible equipment as a cure. They don't give consideration to an individual's functional status. Too often our state agencies don't have the money in their budgets to purchase needed equipment. And if they do, they're all too willing to choose the device that they believe the blind individual needs without ever giving a thought to asking that person what they think might suit their needs. Another pitfall with always having to deal with the state agency is that the ordering process can get all tangled up in red tape and takes forever. And as a result, the equipment's not there the first day of school or that first day on the new job. This legislation will make accessible technology more affordable for the blind by establishing a refundable tax credit in the amount of $2,000 over a 3-year period. And this amount would be applicable to every blind individual in the home. This is going to give blind people more flexibility to purchase the equipment that we want, not what somebody else thinks we want. And it can be ordered and delivered in a much more timely manner. And we all know that the more blind people we can put to work and get off of the assistance roles in federal and state government is only going to enhance our lives, and it's going to put money into the tax coffers. We currently have 128 co-sponsors in the House and 24 in the Senate, and that is as of the other night when President Riccobono announced these numbers on the live presidential release. We're working on trying to get ATAA into the HEROES bill, which is 6800. The HEROES bill act is directly a result of the upheaval caused by in the economy caused by the COVID pandemic. Greater access to independence through non-visual access technology. It's our GAIN Act, and it's House of Representatives Bill 3929. Home appliances, home use medical devices such as the glucose monitors and fitness equipment are becoming less and less accessible for blind people. They must be accessed through digital displays, a flat panel, or some other user interface. And these barriers are not only a health issue, but they are not only a nuisance, but they are a health and safety issue. We are aware that non-visual access is a reality. Just look at what Apple has done. You can have right out of the box voiceover in your iPhone, iPads, and iPods. And virtually all the ATMs manufactured in the United States are accessible, and every polling place offers a non-visual accessible voting machine. And many times making something accessible is not really all that difficult. An audio output, a vibration, or something as simple as a tactile button can make the most complicated piece of equipment accessible. The Americans with Disability Act and other laws, require physical access to buildings such as wheelchair ramps and Braille in public buildings. However, there are no laws to protect blind consumers' rights to access technology. And GAIN will call on the Access Board, an independent federal agency, to create non-visual access review. And they will study the current marketplace, consult with stakeholders and manufacturers, and issue a report with findings and recommendations. And this is going to help create at least some minimal non-visual standards for these home appliances and medical devices and fitness equipment. The Federal Drug Administration will be in charge of enforcing standards for the home medical devices, while Federal Trade Commission will oversee enforcement of standards for home appliances and fitness equipment. Third issue was the accessible instructional materials in higher education, AIM High, is HR 3312 and Senate Bill 3095. Now this is not a new bill for us either. Technology has definitely changed the complexion of education. I can remember not too many years ago when a blind student had to take their print textbook and have it either brailled or put into large print or audio. And nowadays, the curriculum content comes in digital books, PDFs, and web pages, and it's delivered through digital databases, learning management systems, and other applications. And all of this technology is making the printed word inaccessible to the blind and others with disabilities. Blind students are facing overwhelming barriers to education. Instead of a promise of an equal education, blind students are facing a variety of challenges. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and Title 2 and 3 of the Americans with Disabilities Act, require schools to provide equal access. The U.S. Department of Justice and Education clarified that the use of inaccessible technology is prohibited under these laws. The AIM High Commission reported to Congress about 10 years ago that accessible guidelines be developed for post-secondary instructional materials. The solution proposed in AIM High would be to appoint a purpose-based commission tasked with developing accessible criteria for instructional materials and the delivery systems used to access them. Also, AIM High will provide a digital accessible roadmap for instructions of higher education. And these guidelines will contain specific technical and functional criteria that will clearly illustrate how to make educational materials used by the blind more accessible. I mentioned the HEROES Act just a little bit ago. Well, there are a few things that NFB has tried to include that will definitely affect the blind. Because of the coronavirus, we can expect blind and other disabled individuals who are eligible for SSDI and SSI to apply for benefits in record numbers. In order that those who are eligible can receive needed money for themselves and their families, the NFB is asking that the 5-month waiting period for cash benefits and the 24-month waiting period for medical benefits be waived. We are asking to include financial aid for our NFB centers that have also been directly affected by COVID. Again, the virus has closed the centers and caused training to go virtual. And even though now that our centers are open, many states, including Kentucky, are not allowing travel out of state for any reason. So their enrollment is down considerably. We have included provisions for our Randolph-Shepherd vendors whose facilities have also been closed as a result of COVID. There is a proposed waiver in the IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, being presented, which obviously we're going to oppose. The last thing we need while blind and disabled students are doing NTI or non-traditional training is a reason not to follow a student's IEP. And rest assured, we're following this issue very closely. We have talked a great deal about accessible voting, so I don't think there's really any need to talk any further. The Safe to Work Act is Senate Bill 4317 and is a COVID-19 relief bill. It contains sections that would eliminate critical protections established in Title I and Title III of the Americans with Disability Act. And basically what they're trying to say is that public safety in this pandemic era is more important than the rights of the blind and disabled. Again, we must urge the Senate not to pass this legislation. On July 29th, the House passed Sammy's Law, H.R. 4686, and this law, as Ron spoke about this morning, will increase the safety of ridership apps and will ensure that those safety measures are non-visually accessible. NFB has been working closely with the bill's sponsor, Chris Smith of New Jersey, to make sure that blind riders will not be excluded from the bill's additional safety measures. Now we need to call on our senators to pass similar legislation. Our efforts to make sure that blind and other disabled people are paid a fair minimum wage for a good day's work is one that we are working very hard. And on September 17th, the NFB received a statement, released a statement applauding the report of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, calling for the end of the antiquated and discriminatory practice of paying blind and other disabled workers less than the minimum wage. This is in Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act, and we need to stricken this section and move forward. In our Kentucky legislative session this year, we touched briefly. We again filed our Parents' Rights Bill, H.R. 172. And this is an act relating to preserving families that include a person who is blind. We continue to face unfair, preconceived, and unnecessary social bias, as well as antiquated attitudes regarding our ability to successfully parent. This bill will make sure that blind parents and prospective blind parents are treated fairly in custody cases, adoption cases, and foster care hearings. This legislation will address situations where an infant born to a blind parent or parents is taken away by a hospital social worker at birth simply because the social worker does not believe a blind parent is capable of raising that child. If this bill becomes law, and it will one day, it will be incumbent upon the person or agency filing the charges against the blind individual to prove that the blind mother or father is not capable of taking care of an infant or child. Blindness will no longer be the reason to deny a parent, a blind parent, the right, the inherent right to raise children. We were really gaining momentum in support of this bill. And again, because of the corona pandemic, the legislature decided to kind of prioritize the things that needed to be addressed first. And so we were kind of shoved on the back burner, but we weren't the only ones. I think, gosh, I don't know how many bills, some ungodly number of bills never made it anywhere. I'm quite sure that we will file again this year and do whatever it takes to pass this important piece of legislation. So that is the legislative report for 2020. Okie dokie. Next, I need to introduce to you for our resolutions, our first Vice President of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, Ms. Jane Seif.
Trade places there.
Yeah, we're gonna trade places. Oh, well, there's our beautiful creek.
Trading places.
Trading
Is
places.
there like a show about that or something?
Yeah.
I think there is. Trading spaces or places or
Trading
something. I don't know.
places. Yeah,
I don't really.
One of those home improvement
Yeah,
shows. Oh,
I'm gonna
we're
move this
not-
one
we're
paper
not
for a
muted.
I know. Hello, all. Welcome to our resolutions portion of the afternoon. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of background here. We are going to read 3 resolutions. However, we are only going to vote on 2 resolutions. This first resolution that we are going to read, which is the resolution regarding accessible voting for persons with for persons with print impair who are print impaired. I'm sorry. Has actually already been passed by the Kentucky State Board. It was kind of just due to the timely nature of when it would have needed to happen, which was this spring. And we decided to go ahead and take care of that pre-convention because it just was necessary at the time. We would like to read it into the convention record. We would like it to be read on the convention floor, but we will not be voting on it as it has already been passed. The other 2 we will be voting on. So this is how this is going to work. Ben Henderson is going to be reading for me. Thank you very much ahead of time. So we are going to read the resolution. I will call for discussion the same as we would had we been in person. However, we're not going to have people unmuting without permission because it just doesn't work that way. So if you do have something to say, I would like you to raise your hand or to write in the chat, and Ben or Phil will recognize you, whether it be for the resolution and or opposed to the resolution. That's how this is going to work. All right. So our first resolution, which I said is regarding accessible voting for the print impaired, we will have Ben read, and then we will move on to the next one because we will not be voting. Take it away, Ben.
Thank you, Jane. Resolution 2020-1 regarding accessible voting for the print impaired. Whereas, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are faced with a worldwide health crisis, and whereas the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control have implemented safeguards to help contain the spread of the coronavirus, such as social distancing and wearing masks, and whereas Governor Andy Beshear, Secretary of State Michael Adams, and the Board of Elections of the Commonwealth of Kentucky have devised a plan to implement an immediate measure to vote by mail in the primary election for 2020. And whereas both primary and general elections in the state of Kentucky may, going forward, look very different than they have in the past due to the fact that the majority of poll workers in Kentucky are a part of our most vulnerable population. And whereas election form legislation became the priority of the 107th Congress following the presidential election of 2000. And whereas the Help America Vote Act, HAVA, was signed into law on October 29, 2002, and was enacted as a response to the problems that occurred during that election. And whereas registered voters must request a ballot for vote by mail in the 2020 Kentucky election. And whereas the Commonwealth of Kentucky is converting from the traditional system of voting at a local polling place to a vote by mail for the 2020 primary election due to the COVID-19 world pandemic. And whereas the reduced costs to local boards of elections, increased convenience to voters, and voter turnout that result when a state or local jurisdiction changes its voting system to an all vote by mail will likely mean that the Commonwealth of Kentucky may convert to an all vote by mail for future elections due to social distancing requirements. And, whereas Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, requires that jurisdictions that implement vote by mail must provide voters with print disabilities an opportunity to mark their ballot privately and independently at home that is equal to the opportunity provided voters without disabilities. And whereas, should the vote by mail ballot not include an accessible ballot marking device, BMD, limited to voters with disabilities or accessible electronic ballot delivery systems that comply with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, 2.1 AA, enabling blind, low vision, deafblind, or other print disabled voters to mark their ballot independently and privately at home or working using a computer and their own access technology, then a reasonable accommodation for the print impaired voter would be for the Kentucky State Board of Elections to ensure that in-person polling locations be equipped with accessible voting machines. to include the software necessary to allow the print disabled to vote independently, and whereas, in order to be compliant by law, these designated polling locations must be equipped with non-visual access through the use of electronic voting machines, known as direct recording equipment, DRE. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky Board of Directors meeting via Zoom conference this 13th day of May 2020, that this organization demand that the state of Kentucky ensure that all blind and print disabled citizens of Kentucky have the opportunity to cast their ballot privately and independently using one of the following accessible voting systems for the print disabled. Vote by mail with a ballot marking device or electronic ballot delivery system, and be it further resolved that if Secretary of State Michael Adams and the Kentucky State Board of Elections cannot make this accommodation regarding accessible voting for the primary election in 2020, the state of Kentucky must reaffirm its commitment to the provisions of HAVA requiring non-visual access achievable through the use of DREs, and be it further resolved that this organization call on Governor Andy Beshear, Secretary of State Michael Adams, and local government election officials to uphold the law and preserve non-visual access and to avoid any changes without forethought in the name of security that would compromise the right of the blind to vote independently and privately.
Thank you, Ben. And I didn't say this before you started reading, but that resolution was actually brought forth by Todd Stevens, who is the second vice president of the state affiliate. And obviously it was very timely and we very much appreciate it, and a great job. All right, we are going to move on to our resolution 2020-02. This one will be read, discussed, and voted on using the voting system previously implemented. This resolution is in regards to the Transit Authority of River City and was brought through committee by Lonnie Swafford, an affiliate board member. Thank you, Ben.
Resolution 2020-2 regarding a reduction in the quality of services provided to paratransit ridership in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 by the Transit Authority of River City, TARC. Whereas the Transit Authority of River City, TARC, is the only public transportation system serving the greater Louisville region, providing over 12.5 million passenger trips annually through fixed route and paratransit services, and whereas effective February 1st, 2020, TARC entered into a multi-year agreement with MV Transportation to provide paratransit services, also known as TARC 3, replacing the previous contractor, First Transit, who is performing in this role since October 1st, 2012. And whereas this change in contractors is resulting in a significant reduction in the quality of services to include, but not limited to, poor customer service when booking or confirming reservations, receiving incorrect or incomplete information from drivers and customer service representatives, missed trips, pickup times which fall outside of the designated 30-minute window, passengers transported in vehicles beyond the allowable riding time of 90 minutes before reaching their destinations, and passengers returned home hours after requesting a will call from a medical appointment. And whereas the novel coronavirus, also known as COVID-19 pandemic, has required TARC to implement modifications to operating policies to comply with CDC recommended guidelines. And whereas, effective March 31st, 2020, TARC set a goal of limiting ridership to 1 passenger per cab and 2 passengers per bus when available. And whereas this goal has resulted in implementation of TARC operating policies causing a direct violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, 49 CFR 37.123, subsection F, subarticle 2, for those riders using a personal care attendant PCA, whereas 49 CFR 37.123, subsection F, subarticle 2, states that if the ADA paratransit eligible individual is traveling with a personal care attendant, the entity shall provide service to 1 other individual in addition to the attendant. And whereas customer service representatives are advising riders when booking reservations that only 1 person may accompany a passenger on rides, regardless of whether the passenger uses a personal care attendant, PCA. And whereas TARC has failed to answer very specific questions surrounding the aforementioned and other concerns referring inquiries to the TARC 3 eligibility office or customer service representatives. And whereas the National Federation of the Blind of Greater Louisville has requested TARC immediately begin a dialogue to address concerns in a timely manner. And whereas TARC has, to date, advised concerns be submitted through the usual and customary processes which have proven unproductive. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky and convention assembled this 3rd day of October 2020, that this organization demand TARC leadership recognize that implemented changes to operating policies while attempting to comply with the CDC recommended guidelines are in fact creating an undue hardship for passengers who use a personal care attendant, PCA, from booking rides with the additional guest allowed by the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. And be it further resolved that this organization demand TARC institute the appropriate education for all personnel to ensure that this violation of the law is corrected immediately. And be it further resolved that this organization demand that TARC leadership recognize that a substantial gap in service exists as a direct result of the change in contractors to MV Transportation effective February 1st, 2020. Immediately begin a dialogue with the National Federation of the Blind of Greater Louisville, which will occur timely and regularly to ensure TARC is taking the necessary steps to improve the quality of paratransit services. And be it further resolved that this organization shall work collectively with other consumer groups, organizations, and agencies, as may be appropriate to accomplish our goals of improving paratransit services for all passengers.
All right, thank you so much, Ben. Phil, since Ben just read that, do you see anything in the chat and or hands raised for discussion? Plus, I can also hear you in the same room.
I don't see anything in the chat.
All right, I'll give you guys another second and then we're gonna vote. We are going to use the same number that we did before, which is in my phone and I don't remember it out loud.
516
516
874
874
2710.
2710. Once I create a contact in my phone, I do not remember it anymore.
One for yes, two for no.
1 for yes, 2 for no. So
You said you want me to vote.
yes. Sorry, Phil, let me know when you're ready. If there's no further, if you don't see anybody's hands raised and there's nothing in the chat, let me know when you're ready. All right, so you have 2 minutes to vote, starting now.
Live the life you want, nobody can stop you. Shoot for the sun and break on through. So you're blind, you'll be fine, we got good news. You can live the life you want, yes, we know the truth. Grab a cane, get trained, gotta get moving. Make a change on a wage, that's what we're doing. Come with me, yeah. And live the life you want, nobody can stop you. Shoot for the sun and break on through. So you're blind, you'll be fine, we got good news. You can live the life you want, yes, we know the truth. NFB, let's dream together. NFB, you and me, lives on forever. You will see, yeah.
20 seconds left.
Nobody can stop you. Shoot for the sun and break on through. So you're blind, you'll be fine, we got good news. Life you want, yes, we know the truth. You can live.
Thank you, Phil and Ben, for the music. think I need a drum roll here or something.
We got 24 votes. Noes.
So unanimously passed, unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lonnie Swafford. That was lovely written, actually. And I will say, because I was on that committee, obviously, we didn't really change a lot. You do a fabulous job of writing resolutions. All right, so we have one more resolution, and I do kind of want to say something about this. Probably 6-7 years ago, a few of us had a discussion about, like Kathy was talking about earlier, when you notice that people have left and why do you think people have left and stuff like that. And we're like, maybe we should start a committee to address people's concerns around, how do they feel included, et cetera. And, you talk about things like that and you move on and you're doing other things. You're doing a lot of really good work and you're working very hard. And then again, several years later, same discussion. Again, we didn't do anything, which is, I feel bad because I was part of both of those discussions. I actually started a couple of them. And last year, and I was new to chairing this committee and learning to write resolutions, et cetera. And I really wanted to write this resolution, but I was very focused on that in the Parents' Rights Bill because we really thought that we had a very good chance of getting it passed, and had COVID not happened, I think it would have happened. So we were working on that particular resolution. And like we said before, you're doing the work and things move on. But this, I think, was meant for this time in this city, in this place right now. And maybe that's why we didn't write it. And now we're going to. So I would like Ben to read its resolution 2020-03, written by myself with some help from the committee, in particular Todd, regarding equality, diversity, and inclusion.
Resolution 2020-3 regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion. Whereas consistent with the National Federation of the Blind's Code of Conduct and reflective of the Federation's members, the Federation does not discriminate on the basis of race, creed, color, religion, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, national origin, citizenship, marital and/or socioeconomic status, age, genetic information, disability, and any other characteristic or intersectionality of characteristics. And whereas these differing characteristics and life experiences are tied together by the common bond of blindness, and many of those intersecting identities are also subject to inequalities, public misconceptions, and injustices. And whereas the current climate in our state and nation has shown us the only way to effect change is to be deliberate in addressing issues of diversity and equity, and that just talking about the issues without action is not productive. Be it resolved by the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky on this third day of October in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, that the State Board of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky will form a committee to address concerns and resolve issues around equity, diversity, and inclusion for all persons who are blind in the state of Kentucky and who wish to participate actively in the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. And be it further resolved that this committee shall be composed of a cross-section of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky membership. It shall be composed of members who are invested in reaching blind people from a variety of backgrounds, ethnicities, experiences, and identities. And be it further resolved that this committee will be charged with creating outreach opportunities into underrepresented communities with a variety of intersecting identities who also have the common bond of blindness. And be it further resolved that the Kentucky State Affiliate will be deliberate in our efforts towards addressing any and all concerns of persons who may have previously felt underrepresented in order to strengthen our commitment to full inclusion for all.
Thank you, Ben. So I'm going to ask Phil again if there's anything if you would like to have any discussion either for or against the resolution, you're welcome to raise your hand and or put your name in the chat box so that we can unmute you and you may say your piece. And we'll wait a couple of minutes and then we're going to vote once again. Same number, same station, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Phil, do we have anything?
See any raised hands or comments?
All right, Kathy's going to tell you the number again. You can do it loud enough.
All right, 516-874-2710.
All right. Phil, let me know when you are ready.
Ready when you are.
Okay, so you have 2 minutes starting now. Jumped last.
We got new timers and regulars too. Girls, bring your dresses, and guys, bring your suits. Ooh, it's convention time for you. First day of sessions, got the roll call of states. Presidential report, all the things we advocate. Ooh, it's convention time for you. Exhibit halls, scholarships, division meetings, and new friendships. Banquet speeches, a real inspiration. Everybody's singing Glory Federation. Ooh, it's convention time for you.
Oh, 20 seconds again. You haven't gotten your food in. You're really
It's convention time for you. Convention time for you. For you and you and you and you.
Hey, the music ended. I guess that means we have a result.
Let's see, 25 votes, no nos.
All right, unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Once again, successful resolutions. Thank you, NFBK. I'm gonna give you Kathy back. Yay!
Oh, it's not your phone off. Whew, this is like a well-oiled machine around here. Give me some DW40. Okay. Okay. We are now moving to the business portion of our convention. I'm hoping that all of you will hang around. It's very important that you be a part of this process. We will be voting on our officers this year. But first, before we get into all of that, I need to hear a treasurer's report from our treasurer, Mr. J. Michael Freeholm.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here if you can hear me.
We can.
Okay, good. Just so that all of you know, every time that the board has a meeting, the first thing that happens is Kathy asks me for a treasurer's report, and typically I just give them numbers. I'm going to do that now, then I'm going to add to that afterwards. Our current balance in general, let me shut up this phone just a second. It shut itself up. Okay. General checking is $5,380.32. The Newsline checking account is $12,856.84. As far as the Morgan Stanley funds, the Allen Fund current account balance is $38,146.93. And the NFBK fund is $31,562.55. Now, let me go back and flesh that out a little bit here. Two things I did not mention. I did not mention Bell, and I did not mention the Cameron Fund. The Cameron Fund had been in existence for years, and it was not used, and therefore the bank said, well, you can't keep an account open with checking money in it unless you're going to use it. And we don't have a need for that month by month by month. So the board rolled that into the general checking account. Having known that, when we began to have Bell money, we also just put it into the general checking account. So that number of $5,380.32 is really three separate pots, if you want to think of it that particular way. Just so you know, on the Bell account, there's currently $1,303.13. On the Cameron Fund, here's where you get into something where years ago that was used to pay for first-time people to attend a convention. Recently, the board has voted to contribute money to that exceeds what's in the Cameron Fund at any given time. Now, having said that, we can continue to call it Cameron Fund, but it's just used with the other monies that the board takes out of the general fund to pay for people for their first time attendance. That's just simply a comment, all right? Secondly, on the Newsline account, we took that over in 2015, and the NFBK is paid monthly to manage that particular process. We have Jenny Green who does that for us, and we do make some money off of that. So that particular fund has grown with the amount as far as a balance. Now, that's in effect work that we are doing. So therefore, those funds are available to be spent for NFBK projects. In addition to that, there's a magazine called Bench and Bar that pays NFBK annually to have Adam Adkins review documents and articles that they want to put into Newsline, and to make sure that they are accessible. And we pay Adam for that, and there's a profit in that also. So those funds can be in effect transferred into the general balance. The third thing is we now have a PayPal, and that has produced some needs from the national. I have now set up a third, if you want to call it, checking account. That is a PayPal account. And when those funds are moved into our general checking account, I have to post those in as if it's a incoming deposit. Also, the fee that PayPal charges us has to be shown as a service charge from PayPal or what we call a bank. And so we move those funds in. Be aware that even though this is a full PayPal account, we don't pay any bills out of that fund. We can't touch those funds. Well, we can, but we don't. We don't touch those funds to like pay for a thing that the NFB would need, or that I would need if I wanted to steal. All right. So those funds only go into the general checking balance. When you look at the Morgan Stanley funds, those two accounts during the next year will earn us $2,784 estimated in monies that come from those two accounts. What we would like to do as we move on through this here is to get the Allen Fund repositioned so that the annual dividends are around $2,500 a year. And that should be able to pay for the two different Allen Fund scholarships as they would come up, one or two or three or whatever. And we never ever touch that basic fund. And therefore that money will be there forever, always providing Allen Fund scholarships. We'll also look at our own NFBK account and see if we can't set it up so that we can draw a certain amount out of it every year and leave it alone, and then use the funds that are being built up in the news line to give us the money to operate the businesses we see fit. So that is my report, Kathy.
There I go. Okay, I wasn't using my little fat fingers correctly. Thanks, Mike. Very detailed report, but does anybody have any questions for Mike about the treasurer's report? If you want to submit them in the chat room, or if you are on a phone, you can raise your hand by using *9. Thank you, Kevin, for bringing that to our attention here at NFBK Central. We'll give you just a couple minutes if anybody has a question. Any hands raised or questions in the chat room, Ben?
All clear.
Okay, and that, again, that doesn't mean that you can't ask a question. Our records are a matter of public record, so you have access to them anytime. Just call Mike and he will share the good news with you. Let's see. What are we? Oh, I'm on the wrong place.
Because we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
Kathy.
we are. Is there any old business that needs to be brought to the floor of the convention? And again, this can be from members or obviously our officers and board of directors. And you can submit your question in the chat box or raise your hand by using *9. I'm assuming we have no old business. Ben, do you see any questions or hands raised?
Old people.
No, Kathy, I do not.
Okay,
Just old people.
just old people.
That's right. I feel old.
Okay, next we're going to introduce the chair of our nominating committee for a report, Miss Mary Herod, a vital member of this organization. And thank you, Mary, for your taking on the role as chair.
Hello.
You're on.
Let me pull up.
I guess while Mary is pulling up her information, as our Constitution was amended a couple of years ago, we now, our officers and board members hold 2-year terms. We vote on the 5 executive officers in the even years and board members in the odd years, unless there is a position on the board that needs to be filled, and it can be filled any year. So this year we are voting for officers and one board position.
I've almost got it.
Okay.
Sorry, we were running a little ahead of schedule and I didn't have it. All right. So you want the report for the nominating committee. Michael Freeholm and Mary Jo met and we discussed the nominations that we will be submitting. Each person that we had called did accept the nominations. Do you want me to go through that list, Kathy?
Yes, please.
All right. We are putting the nomination of Jane Seif as president, Todd Stevens as first vice president, Karen Main as second vice president, Lori Stevens as secretary, Mike Freeholm as treasurer, and Bill Dethridge as board member. So that is the report.
Okay, thank you, Mary. We will take these nominations. Okay, let's back up. One point of business. We do need to vote on the treasurer's report. So all in favor of accepting Mike's report as read, please vote 1 for accept, 2 for no, and dial or text in 516-874-2710, and you'll have 2 minutes. Sorry about that.
All right, sign.
All right, time. And remember, if you do not get a confirmation thanking you for your vote, try again.
All right, America. It's about time for a transition to integrated, meaningful employment for people with disabilities. There's an immoral, a discriminatory, and unfair practice of sub-minimum wages paid to people with disabilities. We need everybody to learn about it, and the NFB is here to talk and see you.
Equal pay, the blind deserve an honest wage. Educate and advocate, NFB will get you paid. M-O-N-E-Y. Changing what it means to be blind. NFB, changing minds, changing lives.
Okay,
About 10 seconds.
we have about 10 seconds left.
10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is that it? Okay, we're tallying up the votes.
25, all positive.
It's a unanimous. We will accept the treasurer's report. Now, back to the elections. We will take them in the order that they were submitted. If you have a nomination from the floor, submit it in the chat box or raise your hand using *9 on your telephone, and you will be recognized for your nomination. At that point, we will ask the person being nominated if they accept. If we need to vote the we will use the same voting process using that same number. The person from the nominating committee will always be number one. The nominee, the first nominee from the floor would be number two if you're voting for that individual, and so on. If we happen to have a third person running, then that second person nominated from the floor would be number three. So let's start. I will ask 3 times for nominations from the floor. And hearing none, then we will assume that nomination will cease and Jane would be elected by acclamation. Are there any further nominations from the floor? Are there any further nominations from the floor? Now, we'll take just a little bit longer, knowing that we are using technology. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Do we see any names in the chat or any hands raised?
There are no further nominations.
Okay, so hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept Jane by acclamation? This is all new to us.
Somebody's gonna have to raise their hand.
Somebody raise your
Kathy,
hand.
Free home.
Okay, Mike.
I recommend that she be elected by acclamation.
Seconded, Phil.
Second.
The nomination has been made and seconded that we accept Jane as president of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky by acclamation. All in favor? Yay! Yay! If there are any opposed, well, too bad. We've elected her by acclamation. I think we did that. Okay, same rules in effect. We'll now move on to first Vice President Todd Stevens. Okay, get ready. If you've got a nomination, either in the chat room or raise your hand. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Any hands raised?
Be elected by acclamation.
Motion has been made that we accept Todd by acclamation. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Right, the motion has been made and seconded that we accept Todd by acclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
Yay, aye, okay. I'm assuming that if,
Do we need to send that to a vote or what?
not if there's no, because I'm assuming that if no one else is nominated, then this is when we say by acclamation, okay? I might be wrong, been wrong before. Okay, the nominating committee has placed in nomination for second vice president, Karen Main of our Frankfurt chapter. All right, if you have any nominations, go to the chat room or raise your hand by using *9. Are there any further nominations for second vice president? Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
I move that nominations cease and Karen be elected by acclamation.
The motion has been made and seconded that we elect Karen by acclamation. Do I hear a second?
A second.
All those in favor of Karen being elected by acclamation, say a virtual aye.
Aye.
Okay. The nominating committee has placed for nomination for the office of secretary, Laura Stevens. get to the chat room or star 9 if you have a nomination. All those in favor of Laura Felty? Oh, wait a minute. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
Yes, there is a hand raised.
Okay, we have a hand raised.
I move nomination cease and Laura B.
Well, I have
approved.
to ask one more time.
Oh,
Okay.
thought you did.
No, that's okay. I think this is the third time. Are there any further nominations?
All right, now I move that nomination cease and Laura be elected through whatever acclamation.
And I second.
The motion has been made and seconded that Laura be elected secretary by acclamation. All those in favor give a virtual aye.
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 Okay. Now for treasurer, we have Mike Freeholm. If you have any nominations, go to the chat box or raise your hand by using star 9. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
I move that acclamation cease and Mike be elected to the treasurer, NFB treasurer by acclamation.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded that we accept Mike by acclamation. All those in favor of a virtual high five or aye or whatever.
Aye.
Okay. Now we need to fill a board position that was left vacant by Jane since she's moved up the ladder.
Karen.
Since Karen moved up the ladder. Yeah, Jane's
I
been,
guess technically I did.
Jane's been on, well, you moved up.
Jane's taking them big leaps.
You all, it's not even that late in the day and we're slap happy. But anyway, since Karen has been elected our second vice president, it left a board position available. And as I said, we can elect a board position or officer, as a matter of fact, whenever they become available. So the nominating committee has placed in nomination the name of Bill Dethridge from Louisville, Kentucky. So if you have any further nominations, get to the chat room or raise your hand by using star 9 if you're on a phone. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
I move that nominations cease and Bill be elected as board member to the NFBK board by acclamation. Got it right that time.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded that Bill Dethridge be elected a board member of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. All in favor, give a virtual yahoo.
Yahoo.
Yahoo. Okay. Would any of the newly elected officers like to say something? I probably should have done that as each was elected.
Yes, I would, Kathy. I just want to give my appreciation for your vote as to the position of first vice president. And I'm going to continue to work hard for this affiliate and build the federation here in Kentucky along with Jane. And we have a plan. And Kathy, you will continue to work with us and we're going to make big things happen here in Kentucky.
I hope to. Jane wants to say something. Imagine that.
Oh, see, now I can't. You just ruined it.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Well, they saw me getting up.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. No, I wanted to say this. Last night we did a whole thing about convention memories, and I think that my favorite convention memory happened last night, and I felt like it was relevant at this moment to say. We had a lot of discussion about how did you become involved in the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, and every single person sitting around that virtual table said exactly the same thing. They became involved because of relationships. That maybe they met somebody at a bus stop. They had friends who were going to the students group, so they decided to go. They had friends that were going to their local chapter, and they decided to go. Somebody gave them a job when National Convention was held here, so they decided to go. So I know that our biggest mission is to build the Federation so that we strong together can do the work that we do. So just remember, in all of your relationships, that is the way that we're going to build the Federation, and especially the young people. I know that in the last couple of years, we have really tried to draw on some of these young people. So our Tarrans and our Jacobs and our Amelias and our Bradens and our Rileys and our Danielle and Angela, we'll still count you in the young people group. There you go. All of you guys are the next generation. You guys are important, and you guys need to go out and make friends with your other blind people out in the world and bring them in, because that is the only way that we're going to grow. And that's the only way that we're going to build this Kentucky affiliate. And I have sat beside you now, Kathy, for a couple of virtual conventions. And next year, I hope convention is not virtual, but just in case you were under any other impression, I still hope that you are sitting beside me next year.
You know I'm going to be there.
All
I
right.
got your back, girl. I got your back.
So yes, and Todd, I do very much look forward to working with you, and we do have a plan, and it's going to be amazing.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Is there anyone else? Karen?
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Karen Main, and I just want to say that it's an honor. I was shocked when I was asked to be nominated for the second vice president. I promised to do my best and to help Jane and Todd and Laura and all the other board members and Mike and everybody. Just thank you all very, very much.
Well, Karen, we know you will work hard.
I'll try really hard, I promise.
Yeah, you've proven yourself. So, and that
thank you, Kathy. That means a lot to hear you say that.
Laura?
Yes, I just want to say, I've served on this board for 20 plus years, and as I told Jane, I'm going to be here to serve as secretary as long as she needs me. And, even at the point when I'm not secretary, I'm still going to be here doing what needs to be done. So thanks for allowing me to continue to serve.
Mike, you have anything?
I almost didn't get the button pushed there, right? No, I really don't have anything to add. We'll just continue to work to be sure that we use our funds well and that we're responsible in doing so. That's all.
You've always been open and, very, you tell us what you think, and that's what we need. Sometimes we have differences of opinion in this organization, but that doesn't matter. We all work together. So that's always a good thing. Bill, I'm hoping that you will add to the, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who voted for me and say what a privilege it is to be able to be on the board and to serve. And as we talked about last night about our memories, but also thinking about building a future. And I think about the young people who will be taking up when we are no longer here to serve. And I know that one thing from what we've seen this weekend, we know that things are in good hands. And so I am truly grateful to be a part of this organization and to serve on the board. Thank you so much.
Well, Bill, I think that you are definitely one of our up and coming leaders in this organization. So you just hang around. There's plenty more work to be done. And I just told Jane, I've got her back. I'm not planning on going anywhere. I know those are famous last words, but I'm really counting on that not happening.
We live in the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
I will come find you.
Yeah, she'll come find me. But yeah, I will just take on a different role. I will serve in the capacity to whatever extent the president wants me to. And again, that's how we build this organization. We can't hang on to our positions forever. That's not the way it's going. I would have stepped down a couple of years ago, but circumstances didn't play out the way we had hoped. So I started grooming Jane, and thank goodness, here we are in 2020, and I am very happy to pass on the mantle of leadership. So, all right.
Madam President.
Yes.
It's Nikki.
Yes.
I would just like to say congratulations to everyone. Mr. Bill, I totally agree with everyone's sentiments. You have been a great addition, to our Greater Louisville chapter. And I know that you will, shine here on our Kentucky affiliate. Jane, I know you are going to rocket, as president, and I do look forward to working with you and however you need me to. You have charisma and a light that will shine bright for many, many years, and your infectious enthusiasm is going to be a different tone that we're not used to. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But I just like Kathy, I've got your back, and I will always be here. Todd, congratulations on your new position. You have always rocked it, and you are very suited for this organization, and I appreciate working with you. Karen, congratulations on your new position. You've been around a long time, and you have a perception and a perspective on things that sometimes no one else does. So I also look forward to working with you in your new position. And Mom, thank you so much for all your years of leadership and dedication. I know you're not going anywhere, but you have truly made a difference in this affiliate and in the lives of so many people. So, and you better not, this, I hope this isn't a situation where something that you should, but anyway, but thank you and congratulations. I know, like you said earlier, it's going to take a while for your heart to catch up with everything, but we know you're not going anywhere, and you'll always be just a phone call away, and you'll always have your opinions and your finger in your nose and things because we know how you are. But I love you, and I thank you, and I look forward to always being by everyone's side. So congratulations, everyone.
All right, thank you. Yeah. My goodness. New business, yeah.
See, we're all like, want to get done.
Yeah, we are way ahead of schedule, and that's okay. That'll just give us more time to relax before our banquet tonight at 6 o'clock. And if your banquet meal is not what you expected, you can't blame me this year. Does anyone have any new business to bring before the convention? Put your question or put your business in the chat room or raise your hand using *9 on your phone. Do we have any hands raised or any business in the chat room? That doesn't mean you can't bring it before Jane tomorrow.
She wants you to call me at 7 a.m.
Yeah,
I will be running at 7 a.m., but I will still answer.
She becomes president when this convention adjourns. Woohoo!
There's nothing in the chat box and no hands raised.
Okay, I'm hearing that there are no comments or any business in the chat room and no hands raised. So I guess the way we wind this up is to call on our door prize committee. Bring it live to a Swafford family.
Thank you, Madam President. As a reminder, email address once again to send in the response is NFBK. I'm sorry, I got a blank there. NFBKdoorprize@gmail.com. The 10 minutes for the time period will start after the last name is drawn. And the code word, code phrase will be election of officers.
If I can remember all that.
Oh, you can, I'm sure. I trust you. All right, our first recipient is Marcia Holmes.
Woo! That's my mother.
Oh, hey.
Yay, Mom. I hope you're on here.
Next, we have Benjamin Henderson.
Hey, way to go. Ben. Ben, do you know the email? Email.
I think I can find it.
You got 10 minutes. Maybe Toby can help you.
And last, we have Tony Harden.
Hey, Mr. Tony Harden, I hope you're around.
So I will start the clock. I'm looking for those emails. Thank you.
Okay. Since there is no further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. One of the pitfalls of a virtual commercial muting and unmuting. The motion has been made and seconded that we adjourn, so I'm assuming that everyone is in favor. Please be here at 6 o'clock. This ought to be an interesting virtual banquet, to say the least. So see you all at 6.